Good evening, and think about it using common sense. Today, there's so much going on in the news today, especially with the Supreme Court decision to overturn versus Wade. Um, from what I'm, from what I understand, quite a few Republicans are upset behind the fact that it was leaked. It was leaked that the Supreme Court had or intended on reversing Roe versus Wade, um, which deals with a woman's right to choose. Um, Ted Cruz came out and said that he wanted to know, excuse me, he wanted to know who it was that leaked the information. But I'm saying the way Ted Cruz has been acting and the way he support uh, insurrection and the refused to accept the Joe Biden as legal president of the United States, I don't think he has a right to question anything personally from what I'm saying. But getting back to it, um, the people are outraged. Women are outraged, and I think they should be, even though we knew uh, the Republicans stand on abortion. But what I think the problem is, I heard Susan Collins say that she she approved a couple of uh, nominees for the Supreme Court based on the fact that they had promised not to uh, vote to overturn Roe versus Wade, and yet they they lied and they voted to overturn it. Now, the title of my podcast tonight is our democracy a sham? Now, when we think about it, the Supreme Court, that word supreme, that's the highest court in the land. And those people that represent or sit on the bench of the Supreme Court should also be of the highest standards. And their words, their character, their integrity, their um, characteristics, everything about them should be, uh, or should I say, should take precedence over their personal decision. They should do what's based on their word. If their word is no good to me, I could care whatever you do, whatever you say, whatever amount of money that you have. If your word is no good, then you are no good. And this is not a this is I don't know, is it a sham? Is our democracy a sham? Because how can you sit and say one thing to get nominated, and then once you're nominated, you change your word and you change the whole your whole persona of what you was portraying to be to get nominated. And this seems to be the norm in politics. Um, and this isn't. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not sitting up here trashing uh, America. I'm sitting up here saying that the people that take an oath to uphold this Constitution of the United States and serve the American people and took an oath, they lied. They're liars based on their performance and what they are doing. And this is just using common sense. And this has to stop. America is too great a country. But at the same time, has anything really changed from 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 100 years ago? You still have a select few that controls everything, that have the majority of the wealth. We may not have kings and queens in America, but we have presidents, first ladies, different titles, but I think they still do the same thing. But regardless, even though there's a slim door the uh, to the top, should I say? But there's quite a few people that can make it, but based on the number of people uh, in the country or on the planet compared to the few that make it, it's very, very slim. But politicians to totally abandon the Constitution, abandon the American people, and outright um, go against our democracy, support insurrection, and still allowed to serve, get a paycheck, and even go so far as to offer an opinion as to what's right and what's wrong boggles my mind. Um, so I realized that whoever those courageous reporters were that leaked this information, and even though people are outraged that it was leaked, but it seems as though if we didn't have those courageous reporters that uh, stuck their neck out to leak information to the public, we wouldn't get it because the one that's doing it, they're definitely not going to leak the information out. So how else would we get it if there weren't courageous reporters to do it? So it's time for people to wake up and realize that if things are to change and things are to get better, first you have to realize that you really, as much as we think we count, we really don't. You know, but some things, there are things that do change, but on the grand scale of things, I remember when before the Iraq War, 70% of the American people was against uh, going into Iraq. But guess what? They went in anyway. So that told me that when they want to do something, they do it regardless. Um, so uh, you know, when it comes to women having the choice to do what they want to do with their body in regards to anything, it's their body. Whatever decision they make, it's their choice. So um, election time is coming up, and election time is when you need to decide what it is you want to do, who it is you want to serve, and find a way to start holding these politicians accountable. If they say something, and if they go against what they say because they're being elected into office based on what they're saying, now if they're not doing it, if they're not following through with their word, well then guess what? I think their position should be null and void. They should be voted out of office because you're not doing what you said you was going to do, and people elected you into office on what you said you was going to do. And if you don't do that, I mean, it's only fair. It's only if you go to a job and you tell a man, well, look, he's looking for, he need a mechanic, a specific uh, mechanic to work on, to do transmissions, for an example. You go in there and tell him, hey, I can fix transmissions. And then once you get in office, you find out that you lied. Once you get the job, we find out you lied. So lying, what are you going to do? Excuse me. You find out you lied, so guess what? You lose the job. And this should be the same thing with these politicians. You know, um, when I say things that never really changed, I mean that the rich families that owns everything, they still do. They still do. From what I understand, is maybe 1%, 2%. For example, say maybe there's like 90 families, 90 people have more money than the billions of people that's on the planet. Now, what do you do with that amount of wealth? I have no idea. All I know is people should not be starving. People should be uh, allowed to get proper education at a reasonable price where they don't have to not be able to pay the rent or not be able to live decent and 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 be able to enjoy life and have some of the fruits that people should have. And for whatever reason that these rich people fail to do that, I just don't know. I don't understand it. Uh, but what's happening now is the it's the manifestation of people not being uh, educated properly. Uh, there's gun violence like crazy now. People just killing and shooting. They have no value whatsoever to human life. I mean, not even their own. And violence is everywhere. I'm not saying, where they get all these guns from. America, this country has more guns than any other country in the world. I think the last I heard, they said we have enough guns for every person in the United States to have to own one or two or three or four weapons. I don't know how many it is, but it's a lot. I know it's a fact we have more weapons than any other country in the world. But see, a lot of times when you're talking about using common sense, I have to look at myself and not say, I'm different. The only difference between me and someone else, uh, we're made out of the same thing. The only difference is the information that's been put into my head, things in life that I've been uh, subjected to, my experiences. So if you take people and if you don't educate them, you don't know. How else will you know if somebody to teach you or if you're not educated? And then you watch, I mean, movies is killing, and then you're showing people the good side, what the what the rich owns. And here's a person in there, a poor person that doesn't even has no education, no experiences in life, no nothing. He sees this, the good life, and quite naturally they would want it. Quite naturally, you see gangsters on television that's being glorified, and these weapons with the drugs and all this stuff and the money, you know, the good life, so to speak. They call it that, but in all actuality, it really isn't. You don't know unless you've experienced it or somebody teach you, show you something. And you make guns easily accessible, and these people out here running crazy, just killing people. And then if you don't have, I mean, that's atheists. You don't have to believe. Atheists may say, well, they don't believe in God. They believe in something. There's something that maybe at one time, or maybe, you know, things also are instilled in your DNA. When you're born, you have traits. You have traits from your ancestors. So you wonder, well, why do you do this? Why do you like that? Or why do you like that instead of that? Trace your ancestry back. You might see you have a great grandfather who once like that. So it's a lot of things that make us do what we do or think the way we think. But at the end of the day, you're a product of your environment. And the only thing that separates man from animal or woman from animal is the type of knowledge that we have, things that we have been introduced to, see the difference. Um, I was taught before I I had to know. I had to be taught that you could be self-employed. It's not when I was coming up, it wasn't taught in school. I thought the only way you could make money, you had to work for someone. But boy, was I wrong. Then making money, you also need to know what to do with money. Making it and spending it, you will not have anything. So that's why you come up with investment companies. Start your own business. Investment companies get people to invest their money, give them your money so they can take your money and build it in their business and give you some dividends back from your investment. But this way, you don't have to do anything. And if you get with the right company, like when they first come out with like Microsoft, Apple, Twitter, Facebook, Amazon, all these companies, when they first came out, if you had bought stock, but see, we weren't taught about stock, buying stock, stuff like that, you see. And now, in this point, we found out about it. It's so high you can't. The average person can't even afford to buy it. And now, if you're not learn what to do with money, if you're always constantly spending your money, and if an opportunity do present itself, you don't have any money to take advantage of. So we want these things were not taught to us. We were not taught that we live in a world that's governed by laws. Yet law was not taught in high schools. Economics was not taught in high schools. Um, the voting system is not taught. How to use money. Money is a tool, not to be spent. These things were not taught, but these things are necessary uh, survival lessons that we need to learn, to know. Most of all, we need to know about ourselves, how our mind works. We need to know what's good for our uh, development. It's good for our body. Uh, what type of thoughts is good for our mind. We need to know how to think because at the end of the day, this body is our vehicle that we need to get us through this and beyond. And to live a life, we need money to live, but you don't live for money, but at the same time, we live and prepare for the future. And we have to do this together, people. And you can't have anything if you're spending. You can't be together if you don't trust one another. You can't be together if you're not willing to understand understand one another, not just because someone doesn't know. There's no reason to take advantage of it. And that's part of the problem today. Matter of fact, it's a major part of the problem today. People taking advantage of people. That's why I learned a long time ago, you pay for what you do not know. And I try and learn as much as I can. I mean, just yesterday, um, I was changing a light socket, and I thought the switch was off, but it wasn't. But I had learned When you're messing with electric, you do not touch that positive and negative wire at the same time. You know, and by not knowing that the electric was on and not knowing about that uh, negative and positive wire, if I had to touch both of them at the same time, I would have lit up like a Christmas tree. And it was something simple, that didn't require an electrician. I mean, some simple things that you can do, but you have to be careful. You have to know what you are doing because the consequences could be detrimental or could be unbearable, could put you through some things, or let's just say, could set you back. But that's why it's so important for us to learn these things and work together and realize that um, there's certain things in order to get from point A to point B. There's certain things that must be done. And from what I'm seeing, you know, we as a people, we're not doing what's necessary for us as a people to make the progress that we really need to make and should be making in this time. Because when I'm riding through the city, all I see is developing. And I don't see us on these jobs. I don't. Uh, but I see our neighborhood being developed. We're not the developers. So it's time for this to change, and the way things are today with the amount of people, with the cost of living steadily increasing, uh, with the loss of jobs. You look in the window and you might see a lot of signs say help wanted for hire, we're hiring. But don't be fooled by that because what they're doing when you look at things, these restaurants, a lot of restaurants are closing. They're doing a lot of delivery business. A lot of the small stores, big stores are consolidating, putting the mom and pop stores, the little neighborhood stores, putting them out of business. Uh, and then two, in your neighborhood, you living in your neighborhood. So instead of developing and have businesses in your neighborhood, you would go downtown or other neighborhoods and spend your money. And not only that, just like you go to someone else's neighborhood, if your neighborhood is safe, uh, have nice shops, nice restaurants, I'm sure people will come to your neighborhood and do the same things and patronize you, just like you patronize them. But we have a bad reputation. Every time you pick up a newspaper, every day you turn the news on, people's getting shot, people riding by shooting people. It's terrible. It's terrible. And it's no simple it's no simple solution to this problem because this problem just didn't happen overnight. But you must remember that uh, common sense will tell you the rich, upper middle class, They don't, even though now I'm not saying these things can happen to anyone, can go off and hurt somebody, shoot somebody. It could happen anywhere. But to have a constant uh, shootings or these type of things, to get a bad reputation of these things happening, like drive by, people just drive by and shooting and stuff like that. They're not coming. They're not coming to your neighborhood. And I heard the city, I think it coming up with a program, whereas they giving developers, they're creating housing for low income, and they're giving developers, I think, $400 million to develop uh, these vacant lots or homes, remodel homes in a decent part of the city. It's a really up and coming. It is an up and coming part of the city, but the development, I mean, it could be mega, mega place for people to live. And but for the low income, they were saying that the average rental is gonna be like 1,200 to $1,400 a month. Uh, Average purchase price of a home, I think, from 150 to $250,000. Now, I'm saying, unless I'm missing something, low income, based on how things been going with these mortgages and everything. 30-year mortgage, you get a 30-year mortgage on $150,000. I'm sure you'd be paying back a little over $300,000 at the end of 30 years. $250,000, you'd be paying more than that back. About $600,000 or more in 30 years. So my thing is, how is it that low income or middle class, how is it that for low income people, how is it that they will be able to afford that? I'm just thinking. So is that some way of developing a part of the city, and maybe uh, other people will come in and purchase these, people that can afford these properties would come in and purchase them. I don't know. I'm just thinking, trying to use some common sense, because it's terrible that things happen today that you really don't know who to trust, and you don't know if there's some uh, back door to this thing. Everything sounds good, but is it really good? Is it really going to do the job that you say it's going to do? Is it really going to benefit the low income people? I don't see how it is when you're talking about, what, paying 1,300, $1,400 a month with this type mortgage and this. You got to be you got to be making, at least, if you're not making it, at least 60,000. Now, if you're not making at least 60,000, that's the bare minimum, I think, to uh, be able just to make it and get by today. Um, and another thing too, people, families. If families work together, just the immediate family, If the families work together, things can be a lot easier on you. In other words, instead of uh, time you get out of school or start making a few dollars, you want to jump out and get your own apartment or stuff like that, and start buying this and buying. You'll never get out of the hole. If you live home with your parents, and and not only is it easier on you, but it's also easier on your parents. You don't have to spend as much money. You have a chance to save a nest egg for 2 or 3 years or however long. And then when you do move out, you have some money to do something with. That's the key. That's the key to survival. You have to work together. People don't just jump out. Oh, I'm gonna go out there and get me a get me an apartment. And once you get an apartment and you get a car, if you get yourself some furniture, oh my goodness, that's it. That's it. Now next thing you know, you're working two jobs. If you're working two jobs to maintain what you have, then you either got to go to school, find yourself a job making that amount of money, or you can be working so much and putting in so many hours you're not even be able to enjoy what you're working for. So it's a lot, but your life is on the line, and you have to stop. You have to think about what you're doing and think about your future. Sit down sometime and think, well, what am I doing? Is this what I want to do? Or what is it that I want to do with my life? And figure it out and work on it. Work on it. Because it's not going to come to you unless you make it happen. That's just the law of the land. So it's a lot of things that we need to do. It's a lot of things we need to think about. Um, uh, I don't know what's happening. I'm not that up to what's going on. Oh yeah. Oh, I have to read this. This is something that I stumbled upon that really blew my mind, and this is called Ministry of Truth. And Ministry of Truth is involved with news media, entertainment, the fine arts, and educational books. Its purpose is to rewrite history, to change the facts to fit party doctrines for propaganda. And it is responsible for any necessary fabrication of historical events. Now, this is frightening to me. This is really, really frightening. I just uh, stumbled onto this last night, and I really want to do more uh, investigative reading on this. But when you're talking about these politicians rewriting history, you're uh, talking about controlling people on a much larger scale than we're doing now. And you're talking about rewriting history, change the facts to fit party doctrine. You know, this is crazy. You know, this goes with, as we can see even now, that happened with the election. Biden won, but word was put out that it was stolen, that he was not the legitimate elected president. And there were millions upon millions of people believed it, even though they know it was a lie. And politicians even supported this. I don't know, is our democracy a scam, a sham, or what? This is serious. This is serious. Excuse me. This is serious. I don't know what this country's coming to, but whatever it is, it's coming, and it's coming fast. And people seem to, a lot of people seems to not even care. I think their focus is on something that's totally, totally uh, off track with what's taking place, what's in the process of taking place. But it's terrible. It's terrible. Uh, War in Ukraine. I don't know enough about it. All I know is it's terrible. Anytime there's a war and people are getting killed, their country is getting destroyed. It's terrible, especially when it could have been avoided. And when you're dealing with Putin, someone like Putin, he's not going to back down. And more and more people are backing Ukraine because they can't see, and rightfully so, based on all the people, the destruction that's going on, the people that are dying. Um, it's terrible. And my only fear is that with the support that's being given to Ukraine and the mindset that Putin is in, I just hope it doesn't come down to the use of nuclear weapons, which could be a potential of that use. Um, and another thing bothers me, and that's the people in Africa, the amount of famines, starvation uh, to the African people. And Africa is a very, very, very rich continent with so many natural resources: gold, diamonds, lithium, copper, cobalt. Why are those people in such poverty? You know, I can't. Well, I know why, and that's because people are taking the natural resources from all these other countries are taking the resources, and I would imagine too that the some of the dictators in Africa probably sold the people out, but those people should not be living like they're not. They should not be living like take it. And I know if you didn't, if the developers or countries didn't take the minerals, it would just be there, and the African people, wouldn't get them out, possibly, wouldn't know about them because they're not that modern. They're not that modern to use this type of technology and develop these things into whatever's necessary use they're being extracted for. But at the same time, if you're taking it, give them something. You know, give them some clean drinking water and a house to live. Something. I just don't understand the need for someone to be super, 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 super rich and just don't want anybody to have anything. For what reason? For what reason? But don't forget, this is I think this human race, it's obvious that there was a civilization before ours. And for whatever reason, they died out. And so will this one. And I would imagine that all the extremely wealthy, wealthy, wealthy people, I'm sure the reason why they have all these doctors and scientists and give them all kinds of money to do what they want to do, to find, get into cloning and uh, transplants and uh, robotics and all this stuff and going into outer space. At the end of that, or the purpose of all that, is to live forever. But even at some point, even if you live 10,000 years, and that 10,001 year when you don't, when you're no longer here, you have to pay up. Everybody does. Everybody. Um, this topic tonight is our democracy a sham? Based on what I'm seeing, based on how things are being done, based on the politician, their do's and the don'ts, and that seems to be infecting the Supreme Court. One justice, his wife was with the uh, supporters of insurrection. Now, this is a judge, now, Supreme Court judge, and I'm sure he had his wife. I'm sure they talked about it. It's common sense. I'm not saying they did, but I'm just saying using common sense. You know, um, things are not based on how they should be if truth was the forefront of what everything was based on. And this doesn't seem to be the case. And I don't know if it has ever been the case, because we are in the same predicament today that we was in 50 years ago, 100 years ago, with the exception of just being closer to the, uh, based on climate change, to the end of civilization. So on that note, I normally come Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but right now I'm in the midst of doing some extra work to help someone out. So I may be in tomorrow, but there's a lot of things going on that we need to pay attention to. You know, I feel as though we're being misdirected. We can't sleep on this stuff, because the decision you make is a decision that your children and their children will have to deal with. You know? So, um, and whatever we're dealing with, we have to work together, and do things together, and just stop putting. Just can't put. We need money to live. We just can't put money in the front of everything. We need to help one another. It doesn't hurt, because at the end of the day, somewhere along the line, at some point, you will help somebody, and we're all in this thing together. We all are, and we need to focus on ourselves. Sam most of all said, "Look on all things with love." And most of all, love yourself, because when you love yourself, you will love everything else. And you will inspect any and everything that enter into your body and your mind. We have to change. We have to change our whole mindset. We have to change our ways of thinking about things. Stop talking and start doing. This is a real world with real consequences. Kids should not be out here with guns and killing and shooting anybody. It's just a sad, sad state of affairs with huge consequences. Thank you all very, very, very much. Have a wonderful evening, and hopefully I'll see you